go. This session is being recorded. Um, so I will introduce Deb Cowan, who is the U.S. Vice President. Um,
I, one moment, I just want to close my door just in
okay.
case the party comes upstairs or something.
Party.
I've got my door closed against the cats. It's an hour till their feeding time, so they're up in my face.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah,
My
well,
door,
that was the other thing. Cats do like to come and visit.
my
They
door
love
is
to-
open.
Paul, the reason I'm using the telephone is so I can go to the party.
Exactly. There you go.
So as I said, I don't see the people who are on phones. We don't see. So and did we lose Shauna?
I think so.
No, I switched to
Yeah,
the phone.
she just
Oh,
left.
she went to the phone. Okay, so now she's on the
Oh, she
phone.
went to the phone.
Oh, okay. So, um, so hi. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Deborah Cowan, and I am the U.S. Vice President of Local 1000. Not for long, since I am not running for re-election. So as of January 1st, you will have a new U.S. Vice President, and we're not sure who that may be. Might be Aaron, might be somebody else. Somebody decides to contest that.
Contest,
Anyway,
please.
please, he says. So we're talking about, we thought that the topic of this would be, Bella wants,
Bella wants in the crowd here.
would be crossing playing in Canada and what is involved in doing that. And I also do a lot of work over in the United Kingdom, over in England and Scotland. And so I'm very familiar with all of the hoops you have to jump to go over there as well. But I think we're just going to focus on Canada. But if anybody does have any questions about the UK, I can answer those as well. So going to Canada is, as union members, it's really easy. The paperwork, there's a couple ways you can do it, and I know Spook, you've gone up there before and done it with just you've got your contracts, and you go to the border and you hand your contracts to the border, the immigration officer at the Canadian border, and he looks through them and he asks a bunch of questions, and then he either says, go on, have a nice time, or they don't let you in. That's usually, I would think, the way it goes. But as union members, we can get what's called a letter of cultural exchange. And I'm going to switch that on to my screen here, Aaron. So if you could make me the presenter.
I will make you the moderator here. Dun, 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 Deborah Cowan. All right.
If we want to ask questions, should we wait till the end? I don't want to interrupt things, but
Yep, you can't ask that question until the end.
I just
To the end of the question?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me go through this, and because I just want to show you this document so you can see what it looks like. There's my screen. Can you all see the screen?
Yeah.
Can you all see my screen?
Yep, I can see it.
Those that can see it. This is what's called the letter of cultural exchange, and this is my copy from when I performed at the Lunenburg Folk Harbor Festival. It costs $40, and you don't get this document until CFM gets your money. But there's a 2-page application that you have to fill out, and with your passport information, so you can see on mine, there's my passport number, my date of birth, my name, my citizenship, the date I'm going to be entering Canada, and the exit date. And then if I was on a tour, this box down here would have all of the gigs listed on the tour. But for the purpose, for this particular engagement, I was just doing one festival. I was just doing one engagement. So that was all that's on the on the letter. It's got a copy of the law or the treaty language that allows us to, we have reciprocity so that us as artists can go into Canada without all of this, you know, without having to pay lots of fees and do lots of stuff. And the language is right here that says that we, per the treaty, we're allowed to perform in Canada and perform for nonprofits and such. Because it comes from the union, I just say it's like gold. It's like a key. I have never had, this is my third one. I've never had a problem going into Canada with this document. And the other thing too is when I come back from Canada, if I show this at the U.S. border, I still get the third degree, but it's not as harsh a third degree. So that's what the letter of
degree.
Pardon?
I say it's a 2.7 degree.
Yeah, yeah. So this is what the letter of cultural exchange looks like. And the applicant, you do have to submit a copy of your passport to CFM when you apply.
What's CFM? Canadian Federation of Musicians?
Yes.
Yeah.
And where do you get the letter? A copy of the letter? Who gives it to you? How do you, the application?
Oh, the Canadian Federation of Musicians. In fact, I can show you what the application looks like. I'll open that up.
I mean, they send you the letter, or is it available in the States?
No, the Canadian Federation of Musicians sends the United States citizen the letter.
I see.
Yeah.
Once you paid your money, you have to pay the money. It's $40.
Mm-hmm.
So
How does
this
that translate to American dollars? Because I'm pretty sure that's Canadian.
No, that's $40 American.
Oh, okay.
That's $40 American.
And the reason I had a question before is you said you can either do this or show up at the border with your contracts.
Right.
That wasn't the case, as I remember years ago. We had actually had to have working papers, and the festivals I would play at would arrange for working papers and send them to me. Is that still in effect?
It's all changed. It's all different now, Saul. It's all different. So yeah, so it's a whole different ballgame now than it used to be.
It sounds like this document she was showing us was replace the working papers. Is that correct?
Well, it has, but if you're working in a nonprofit venue or a venue that does not sell food and alcohol, then you can use this letter of cultural exchange.
What if you're working in a bar at the same time you're working at a festival or something like that?
You need to get a work permit. However, that might have changed, and I noticed Mike Murray is on now. So, or is he? Yeah.
I think Michael's here,
So he might be able to answer.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hey. Hi, everyone. I'm brand new to the whole situation up here in Canada. I'm just dipping in for my own education, really. But I don't know the difference between. There was something that came up. You'll see something called the labor in this fourth line of this letter, the labor market impact assessment. This is really plaguing the folks that stay longer than 2 weeks. So all our orchestral musicians from the States are having a hell of a time with this, but and they originally wanted to not exempt alcohol serving places, and I actually don't know where that stands. I think Leanna's joining us within the next 10 minutes, so she'll be able to answer it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there's been a lot. There's been some changes, and since all of my work in Canada has never been, I've never worked in a venue that serves alcohol or a bar or a nightclub, so I've never had to deal with that aspect of the paperwork. I just get the letter of cultural exchange, and again, I should say too, I'm only speaking from my own personal experience. Somebody else might have had a different experience. My personal experience has been really great. It's been really good.
Once you pay that $40, Deb, you don't have to pay work dues on top of that to CFN?
Only if you file a contract. Work
Oh,
dues, or you pay your work dues equivalency, which
Are
is
are we filing the contract with the CFM or with Local 1000 here?
well, that's another piece of information too that we just learned in our last board meeting, and that kind of gets into a different topic here about filing pensions. But I will say, and we can expound on this at some other time. I don't want to take up a lot of
Okay.
time with it, but we just found out in our board meeting, we met with the pension plan, the pension fund, and if you're vested in the American pension plan, you're automatically vested in the Canadian pension plan. So
Okay.
so you can file what's called an LPCC when you do work in Canada, and that will work towards your vesting in both pension plans,
Okay.
which I was just like, wow, that's fantastic. That's just, I didn't know that.
Hey, Deb,
Uh-huh.
this is Spook.
Hi, Spook.
I just wanted to clarify one thing that you said. You said that there was an issue if they serve alcohol, and my understanding is that it's actually there's an issue if they sell alcohol. So
That could, yeah, that's, yeah,
yeah,
sell,
because
yeah.
last year I did a gig up in Saskatchewan. Actually, I did the home roots thing, and I was up in Saskatchewan, and the place where they normally have the house concert is actually in an art center where they sell alcohol. And because I was an American, they held it in somebody's house, and instead of selling alcohol, they just brought it and gave it to everybody for free. but the issue, and the guy explained to me, of course, this is secondhand, so anybody who thinks they need to know the difference should look this up. But my understanding is it's a matter of selling.
No, you're
alcohol.
right. You're right, Spook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor choice
And
of
I'm not
words
sure
on my part.
that might, and I don't know if selling food is an issue either.
I think it might be, but I don't know, and that's something Leanna could probably answer when she comes
I
on.
think she's on.
Okay.
Leanne, are you on?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Hi,
Okay, good.
Leanna.
Hi there. Okay, sorry, I'm just signing on, and I realized my computer name is it's not me, so I was just changing that before
But
before I
I
commented.
saw AFM, so I thought, okay, this must be Leanne. So,
Yeah, there we go. Oh, there we go. That's me. It's an
there it
AFM
is.
on thing.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so these
There we go.
screenshots that I see here, this is, oh yeah, okay, that's obviously you guys. Okay, all right. You know what, I kind of came in a little bit in the middle of that. So you were discussing whether you needed a work permit if it was dependent on whether they sell alcohol or not. Is that what you were debating?
Yeah,
And
maybe you
food.
could tell us, Leanna, what are the conditions for a work permit and what are the conditions for a letter of cultural exchange?
Okay, usually, I mean, I don't think alcohol has anything to do with it. It's more the type of venue, because you could go in for a wedding. Let's say there's a hall under a bar, and they rent out the hall for weddings and such because it's attached to the bar. Oh, actually, yeah, so maybe it is. I've never had it defined as alcohol versus non-alcohol.
Okay.
If it's a venue that is Yeah, any type of venue. I do believe even wedding halls would require the permit. But now it's if you're coming in for very limited engagement. So if you're only coming in for one engagement, it's good to have the letter only for verification purposes, that you are coming in for the reasons that you're presenting. But other than that, if you're only really coming in for one engagement, you don't require a work permit. It's when you're coming in for a period of 15 days or longer where the work permit comes into question, or if you're working for an organized group.
Okay.
Like organized groups, or meaning like a symphony orchestra. If you're only coming in as a sub or as a feature artist or soloist, in more of an orchestra type setting, then you would come in under a cultural exchange. You would need the work permit and labor market opinion if you're actually engaged for an extended period of time in a more like a organized and regular performing group, not just a one-off miscellaneous type gig. So
okay, so if you're coming in, for example, for just one folk festival,
yeah,
or two or three folk festivals even,
yeah,
you're okay with the letter of exchange.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
And even in those cases with festivals, they've been work permit exempt for quite some time. Again, being based on the type of venue. It's a festival. You're only coming in for that weekend or a series of weekends, even if they're back to back across Canada. So you're coming in for that limited amount of time. You would have to show your festival invitations that you're, even if the exact location of the performance wasn't confirmed, just that the festival's confirming that you're performing there. And of course, you would have, hotel arrangements showing that you're kind of going in and out. So you would want to demonstrate all of that. Again, it's always best to have a letter of verification, but again, you're not going to run into a specific work permit situation for festivals.
Okay.
But then, this is Saul, then if you're playing a couple festivals and you want to play at say, the Free Times Cafe, if it's still there in Toronto, that serves food, I guess they serve food and beer. It's a profit-making organization, hopefully,
right?
Or supposedly.
Yes.
Do I need a work permit for that? In addition to
Okay, that is actually the way it was. Now I see where the alcohol is coming into it. If it was an entity that their business was anything other than musical performance, so that's what the reason that festivals have been exempt for so long is because the whole reason for a folk festival or folk music festival is the music. It would not exist without the music. Whereas Deb's Bar and Grill, whether they have a live performance or not, they're in business. And if they have a live performance, that could generate more business. So it's actually, they make their money from food and drink. And it doesn't necessarily have to be alcohol, but they sell something else other than their primary source of business is not musical performance. That's unless, of course, again, it's a more organized and long-term engagement.
So I would need.
So that would require then work permit.
No, it wouldn't. That's the way it used to be. It's now that is if you're only going to come in for, let's say, a one-nighter and you're passing through town, then no, you would not require a work permit, even at Deb's Bar and Grill now. Up to about a year and a half, 2 years ago, you were absolutely correct in that statement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Liana. Cleared up a lot.
You're welcome. Okay, good.
So some of us, and myself included, are doing these home roots tours, and I wanted to get a letter of cultural exchange for that. So I was assuming that I would just fill out the application. This is the first page of the cultural exchange application. And then there's a second page, which I can put up too, and submit it. And I would assume that the itinerary would have all of my house concerts on there as well.
That's correct. And what determines is the length. So how long is your tour within Canada?
It'd be 15 days.
It would be 15 days. Okay. And you know what? And you're only doing you're going across through house concerts only?
Only house concerts, absolutely.
Okay. Again, see, and that's one area which is a little, it's a little gray because it wasn't specified. What was specified was, limited time engagements. Again, if these are recognized, established, or recognized where they can show that there's been more than one engagement there. So like with house concerts, it's not really anything new in the United States. It seems a little bit newer here in the way of immigration inspection is what I'm saying. Specifically. At any rate, it's I think you would be okay just for the 15 days. Again, I know that for that time period, and that's the other thing. It's 2 weeks. So is it 15 days or 10 days? I tend to say I'm sure it'd be fine for 15 days. So I don't even necessarily know now under today's regulation that you would need this letter of cultural exchange if you stay within that 15-day period. But again, it's always good to have. Now, if we know that you're going and you're going to travel within business hours, we can always clarify the policy, and we've got it up on our website as well that the immigration inspector can look at. But you don't necessarily need this letter.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, Home Roots is the organization that is putting this whole thing together.
Okay.
And everything is in the and there's a contract. There's a legal agreement.
Right.
And so that's what I would, because you do, for all the other folks out there in this webinar, you do have to submit your contracts when you apply to for the letter of cultural exchange. So I would be submitting the Home Roots contract that I was asked to sign. So my agreement is between Home Roots, really, and myself.
And Deb, this is Saul. I bet you Tim, is that his name, out in the Home Roots office in Winnipeg, would answer your question about the length of your tour.
I'm sorry?
This is Saul. Did you hear what I said?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't catch that.
Oh, sorry. I would guess that since your contract is with Home Roots, I would imagine Tim, is that his name, out at the Home Roots office in Winnipeg, would be able to answer your verify, confirm the fact that you don't need any further. That 15 days is okay with your.
Oh yeah, no, he and I have already discussed it.
Yeah.
But they had never dealt with the letter of cultural exchange before. They didn't even know it existed.
Yes,
no,
I can answer that question. This is Spook. I can answer that question. Mitch and Tim know what they're doing.
Yeah, they do.
No, really. So they bring up. I mean, it's only like 6 Americans a year, but they've done it for enough years that they've done it 25 times.
Yeah.
And when they give you that contract, it's a booklet, and everything. Wait till you see this booklet. Everything you need to know is in it. I mean, it tells you, even like what numbers to plug into your GPS. Now, I don't use a GPS, but it's got that, everyone's contact information, all that stuff. So it's a great booklet with lots of information. But as far as the contract goes, I actually did ask Mitch about this, and Mitch Padalak is the guy who runs Home Roots, and he.
Oh, Mitch, I know him very well, actually. Now that you say the last name, and yes, absolutely knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and he knows what a letter of cultural exchange is, and he said specifically that part of the reason that they're doing it the way they're doing it is so that you don't need a letter of cultural exchange.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just do what Mitch or Tim tells you to do, and you're fine.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. You saved $40, Deb.
The only question I'm going to ask Deb is that those tours are usually 14 days long, and you said 15, and I don't. and 15 might be the magic number. Why are you up there for 15 days? Or were you just estimating?
I'm just estimating.
Yeah, because there might actually be a reason why they're 14 days instead of longer. I don't know if that's an issue too, but if you get a chance to talk to Mitch, he should know if there's a problem with that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you were there for 17 days, that would be longer than
right.
most of those
Right. No, it's yeah. I said 15. It's maybe I'm thinking 15 gigs in 14 days.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm kind of going in 29 different directions right now. So if it's not in front of me and it's off the top of my head, it's probably wrong.
Yeah. Well, anyway, hey folks, I'm gonna have to sign off. So thank you so much for
thanks, Spook,
for entertaining me.
Spook, take care. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
And this is Saul who?
Huh?
Who's this?
Stephen Lee Rich.
Oh,
up here in Madison, Wisconsin.
Good. I'll see you. I'm playing in Madison. I'll tell you about it at Farm. And I'm sorry.
This is Saul Brody in Philadelphia.
Oh, Saul Brody. Good.
Hi.
First folk musician I ever met. And the woman who just signed on 2 minutes ago. What's your name?
Leanna.
Oh, me, Liana. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Liana. Okay, I'm going to get your contact info from Deb and continue hanging out with you.
Okay, sounds good. I look forward to it. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Well, one of the reasons I like this letter of cultural exchange is because it just seemed like every time I present one at the border, and I know I probably shouldn't be describing it like this. It's almost like the magic ticket. I get to the border, I show it to them. I do have to pull over under the little portico, go inside. They ask me some questions. They go make a phone call. They come back and they say, "Have a nice time," and on I go. And I've just never had any kind of issues when I show this letter. And in fact, coming back from Nova Scotia this last time, I was taking some CDs back into the United States for John McCutcheon. And the U.S. immigration inspector started giving me a hard time because I had all these CDs in the trunk of the car. And I explained to him what I was doing, and then I showed the letter of cultural exchange. And the two U.S. border guards said, "Oh, this makes sense. Oh, yeah, okay, you're just doing a favor for a friend, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "You're not going to sell these for him?" And I said, "No, I'm going to sell mine before I sell his." So it worked both ways, going because we get a hard time coming back into the United States, and every time I've had this letter, it's just been, I don't know. It's like, oh, okay, it's official, and it's I don't know, but that's me. Then that's my own personal experience. So.
Have you been getting grief about the CDs?
Yes, I did get grief about the CDs.
Yeah, I mean about your own CDs.
Well, the fact that I had a huge box of McCutcheon CDs and 2 small boxes of my CDs, but McCutcheon CDs took up half of my trunk. So I think if I'd had just the 2 small boxes of my CDs, it wouldn't have been an issue. They asked me how much alcohol I had. I said I had 2 bottles of wine, but they wanted to know about the CDs. It was weird.
Leave it to John to dominate things.
Yeah. So, are there any other questions? Liana is definitely in a better position to answer your questions than I am.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that because you've got the practical experience. I've only heard the horror stories. You've been at the border, right? So
yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a team effort.
Yeah. And I've crossed, I've crossed at St. Stephen, I've crossed at Campobello, and I've crossed at Windsor. And I have to say that the larger cities, I got more scrutiny than in the smaller crossings.
Hmm.
So, and in Campobello, they had no idea about the letter of cultural exchange. They'd never seen one before.
Yeah, no, yeah, you get different, it's different experiences. I've actually heard of some borders that are the smaller ones being more strict than the larger ones that are used to this kind of stuff. So you hear it from all ends, and I think it kind of boils down to the guy that you get, or the guy or gal that you get on the day that you're crossing. So.
Yeah.
But just back to the letter. It's again, it's something that it's a good thing to have. Just if you have to show that extra level of scrutiny that that you are part of a professional organization falling under a reciprocal exchange, and having also not only the union guidelines explained, but also the regulations of the Immigration Act on both sides. So you don't need it, but as long as you're crossing between during business hours, then you could always contact our office, and we could always talk you across if need be. So.
Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing too, that Fatima, who I had
Yes.
spoken with
Mm-hmm.
in your office, Liana, Fatima also said that one of the things about the letter of cultural exchange is you are covered under union contract. This is covered work.
It is. And then if there's any issues, like if let's say, with house concerts, it's usually past the hat, but if you are playing for a confirmed amount under a contract, and for whatever reason you're not paid, or something else happens, then we can do our best to cover you, to make sure that you can at least get home, or whatever the case may be.
So with the letter, again, the union has your back.
Exactly. That's really it. At the end of the day, we'll know you're there. We can verify you're there. We can help you, get out or get to the next gig. So.
Yeah, which I found to be, again, it's what we do. But one of the things that I did encounter a few years ago, and it was a new question, was I was asked if I was going to be doing any workshops. And again, I was going to a festival, and of course, what do we do in festivals or folk festivals? The small stages are called workshops. But the immigration officer said, right after he said workshops, he said, like teaching, instruction. And I said, oh, no, it's all concert, it's all performance. And he said, oh, okay, because this letter does not cover teaching or instruction.
Right.
And,
really?
Yeah.
We have letters if we know that's what people are going to do, especially on the U.S. end, or going into the United States for Canadians. If they're doing, it's actually permitted. If they're just doing kind of workshops at music camps or music festivals, then that's okay. The terminology, then that's where they can actually go in and not require a P2. But that'll be your next month's segment.
Is a separate document then?
I'm sorry?
Is that a separate document then about doing workshops?
It would be, because they're going to look at it as teaching, so it's best to keep it, because workshops for musicians are usually just collaborations, or it's mentoring, or it's sharing ideas. It's a totally different thing. So it's more it's better defined as a musical collaboration than it is a workshop, but we get it. And also with conferences, you'll go in learning, contracting workshops, recording workshops, whatever, like workshops on various music business, but it's all part of the conference. It shouldn't be, so long as you're clear that you're not teaching. If anything, it's more like, it's music collaboration. Is really what it is.
Well, the anecdote is there were two musicians who were at the same festival, Americans, and they got to the border and were asked if they were going to be doing workshops, And of course they said, well, yes. And they got done for $150 a piece. Because the border guard didn't specify, they thought workshops and the border guard thought teaching. So, luckily the festival covered that tariff. But it's just something to be aware of. And I guess it was the luck of being, I don't know, I guess it was lucky me. The guy said workshops, teaching, instruction. Oh, no.
No, exactly. No, but that is something to be wary of, because it's not, and unless I'm asked the specific question, I wouldn't necessarily warn somebody of it. And it's because, not, and it's different on, again, going into the U.S. for a workshop. They're like, oh, okay, go in for 2 weeks, that's fine. Kind of
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I wanted to, talk about.
Let me ask Deb. Let me ask you and/or Leanna. What's the time frame that it takes to get a letter of cultural exchange?
We ask for 72 hours at at minimum. It's something that we just turn around because we provide the regulation. There is again something similar on the entry to the United States as well, but the regulations surrounding it are different. But at any rate, it's hard for us because of our volumes to turn around in 24 hours. So we usually ask for 72. Anytime you can give us 2 weeks, it's always best.
Well, I know as a board, we've been talking about it must be work permits, and Deb, you can correct this. Is that it's taken like 90 days, 70 to 90 days to get those work permits. Is that what it's been, Deb? Is the work permit part?
It's the P2 visa.
Oh, okay.
You mean for Canadians?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's the P2 visa, and it's just becoming and I know Eve has been talking to you, Liana, about this and other issues too. But it is the P2 visa situation is there are people really freaking out because their visas they've waited, they paid their money, and then their visa gets denied, or they don't get their visa in time and they miss the first week of their tour. So
I'm freaking
I'm not
out.
very proud of my country at this point with that.
No, I hear you.
Shauna, is that you that you're freaking out?
Yes, Michael.
I'm sorry, who was that?
It is Shauna who's freaking out.
Shauna Caspi is from Toronto.
Oh, hi, Shauna. Hi.
Hi, Liana.
See your name
Hi, Michael
on the
Murray.
list. Hello.
I'm on the phone.
Oh, that's why. Okay, all right. All this technology.
Well, we've got
so,
about 4 or 5 or 6 people on the phone whose names don't show up on your little list. So just to know that those folks are on. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it looks like Michael's might have not be there. I'm not sure though.
I think he jumped off. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the turnaround time with a letter of exchange? How far in advance do you need it?
72 hours on the Canadian. A minimum 72 hours, but we prefer 2 weeks is really what we ask for, but we could get it done in 72 hours. Now, on the if you're going in for like a showcase or something like that into the United States, there is a somewhat comparative system, but when you're going in for paid engagements, like Shauna is, or for an extended period of time, then it boils down to the requiring the actual work permit, and that has been a disaster of late. Anyway, with the backlogs at the immigration services.
Okay.
Cool.
And that turnaround time is now at about at 75 days.
75 days. Okay.
75 days. If you're not going in for like a real, like a showcase or festival in the United States. Again, paid engagements or anything where there's like pass the hat. It's not a house concert must be under a P2 for instance.
Hey, Deb Cowan, can I ask you a question? This is Troy Bennett.
Hi, Troy Bennett.
Hey, you were talking about coming back across the border with a whole box full of CDs that didn't belong to you.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, if we were to go up to Canada, how do we sell our own CDs when we're in Canada?
Well, I've only been asked once if I had commercial product with merchandise, commercial merchandise for sale, and I said yes, and I had to go into the little office and fill out a customs form. And they looked at it and they said I had 50 CDs, and they said, "Oh, 50 CDs? That's it?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And they said, "Oh, get out of here."
And I'm hoping to sell all of them.
And I'm hoping to sell, yeah, right. So,
I don't
that's.
know if you've ever seen our operation, but we normally travel like.
I have seen your operation.
You know my partner. He's a master.
I do know your partner, and I've seen and I know you. One of the things that I was told to do was inventory everything I was bringing into Canada, and like electronics. So have a list of like iPhone and the serial number, iPad serial number, laptop serial number. If you're bringing sound equipment in, list it with the serial numbers, and that you're bringing this merchandise into the country. Now, Liana might be able to speak more to that.
And only, what you've done very well, because that's pretty much what I tell people. I know, interestingly, more the regulations of going into the United States, and that is, so, anyway, not to get into that, but yes, manifests usually work, especially if you stay in and around under that $2,500 retail mark. Even if you're coming into Canada, they're usually not going to give you an issue. But when in doubt, always contact, you would want to contact a Canadian customs broker if you're going to bring over a large amount of merchandise. Now, what I will say on to Canadians that I'll say to you as well, if you're going to be doing a lot of performing in Canada, just find a company to print whatever, and I know it's different with CDs, but if you're going to do things like merch, like t-shirts and such, that's better to find a company in Canada to produce it for your Canadian tour, and then in the United States for your US tours, depending on the volume of work. If you're not doing a lot and you're bringing over small volumes of product, then again, just as Deborah said, just make sure it's labeled. If you're bringing over more than just CDs, then you separate all your items. Don't throw everything in one box. It's best to leave the boxes unsealed because they're going to open them anyway. And worst case scenario, they would charge you duty up front on each item, which you can recoup when you're re-entering the United States.
Wow, you guys know a lot. Thank you.
Well, at least now I think I do, or we think we do.
Well, I don't know anything.
I always say be armed with information.
Yes. Yeah.
Be armed with information, because one of the things that you really don't want to happen is surprises at the border. And I know going to the UK, it's the same thing. And one of the things people will say, well, why can't we just say we're visiting friends? And I say, the official position is you don't work illegally in another country. You just don't do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to tell you to do it, but you make your own choices. But I do not tell don't do it. Don't take the chance, because when you're caught, it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more money than it cost you to try to save the money or save the hassle.
Yep.
Plus, I'm so famous, they'd recognize me anyway.
Oh, yeah.
They would just let you go through free.
Even if they don't recognize you, they do know how to use Google and such. So be wary of that. And even
facial recognition.
Right. Even if you've covered your tracks, if the presenter hasn't and they're advertising you, that can pop up as well. So
just
Anyway.
That's right.
Are there
So-
other questions that folks that are on might have for Deb? I know that we will be having in October, and I'll get the date here in a second. Our October Cyber Union Hall will be going from Canada into the United States, and Eve Goldberg will be presenting in October, and hopefully, Leanna, you and Michael can be on that call as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. But anybody for particularly going from the United States to Canada that Deb might be able to answer?
Yeah, this is Saul in Philadelphia. I'm just wasn't clear on. I can understand the advantage of having the cultural exchange document from the CFM, but did I understand correctly? If I was doing one festival or one house concert in Canada, that all I would need would be a contract to go across officially. That is, just a contract from whomever I'm working for to go across. Or did I understand that correctly?
Well, I would, I'll tell you, I don't, it's really hard to say because, and I don't think Jack Williams would mind me using his story, but just last week, Jack was denied access to Canada. He was turned away at the border, and he had a contract for a house concert, a legitimate agreement. And apparently the house concert presenter does this all the time. And Jack and Judy just happened to get a border guard that was in a bad mood or ate something bad for breakfast or whatever, and gave Jack a really hard time and denied him entry into Canada. And so luckily, Jack didn't have any repercussions like his passport stamped or anything like that. He was just turned away at the border.
So technically it should have worked, but it didn't work for Jack. It's not foolproof. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's not foolproof. It's not, and I would guess, and that the letter of cultural exchange, again, is, if they say we're not going to let you in, then I can call Liana or Susan at CFM and say, I've got the letter, you guys approved it, and they're not letting me in to do my work. And then they would take it from there. So.
And Leanna, is that something then that you would talk in that scenario, that you then would be able to talk with the border guards, or they don't really care?
No, you know what, they will, and it has worked many times. Like, it has worked more successfully than not. Usually, if they're not going to let somebody in, it's because they really, really don't want to, and it doesn't matter what I say. But they've already had their mind made up. That's happened very rarely, and usually they want to see that they're not familiar with the regulation. It could be a new border guard or somebody who's never dealt with a musician entering before, and they just want to know. So that's why it's actually up on our website as well. So that way, even if I'm remote, I tend to even answer after hours and on weekends. We do have, I'm kind of like the emergency number for that. It's not always foolproof. Every once in a while, it's but for the most part, I do answer or at least receive a message, and that I can get back to somebody. Yes, so typically it will work. Yes, absolutely. So if we put our name on it, we try.
So it sounds like, Saul, it's better to have it.
Jack even had the treaty language on his contract, and they still wouldn't let him in.
Yeah.
That sounds like your basic safety net here.
Yeah. So
you've got two entities verifying the reasons for you entering, and that's what it is. It's the person that's asking for you to enter, and then a third party that's also from Canada, and then one that represents the artist while they're in Canada. It's a security net, exactly that. but not exactly
Yeah.
necessary. So I usually sit on the fence. I'm like, this is what the facts are. We always encourage you to get it, but if you don't want the letter, then by all means, you know, this is what your alternative is.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Leanna. That was so helpful.
No,
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and you've got it pretty well down, Deborah, as well. So, and thank you for allowing me to sit in as well. So that's great.
I'll come and visit when I'm in Toronto.
Absolutely.
I will probably be there briefly at the Ontario conference on the 15th, very briefly.
Oh, okay.
But I'll try to stop in the office when I'm in Toronto and say hi.
Sounds good. Excellent. Sounds good.
So
right.
our October call for I don't know, Shauna, if you're still on, Canada to the United States. That call is going to be Monday night, October 26th, and we'll post that on our Local 1000 Facebook page, and you'll get a MailChimp from the office about that. But hopefully, folks will be able to join for that call as well on the 26th of October.
I'll be in Quebec.
Okay, well, perfect. Then you'll need to come back this direction, so you'll probably need to be on the call to make sure you can come back across.
There we go. That's right.
I'm going to be singing. I would also ask folks that have participated, if you guys could go into the Facebook group, the discussion group, and maybe talk about this and tell all the other members of the Facebook discussion group how it went for you, and let us know too what we can improve, what could be better. This is our second one, so as we do these, we're hoping to get them down by 2017 or something.
Well, I think this went very well as the first kick.
This is a really good idea. This is overall.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
it's been a long
whatever
time.
way we can connect here is a good idea.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there are other folks that joined by phone, because we don't have you don't necessarily come up on our little attendee list. I know Shauna, you were on the phone. I know Saul, you were on the phone. Troy was on the phone. Spook came on the phone. Was there anybody else who's still with us that came on the phone that we don't know about?
Speak up. No?
I know that Amber Rogers and Doc McLean were on for a while, and Gina Forsythe was on for a while. So thank you all for participating.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for putting this up. This is useful information. This has been good.
Great.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Cheers.